There are three reasons that I read For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. First of all, last year I read The Sun Also Rises and committed to reading more Hemingway. Second, I like Metallica. And third, I'm a big fan of The Wheel of Time. Hey guys, welcome to Whiskey and Literature. I'm your host, Captain Mike, and I do both whiskey and book reviews. And tonight it's a book, For Whom the Bell Tolls by Ernest Hemingway. He was born in 1899 and he committed suicide in Idaho in 1961. He was an American short story author, novelist, and journalist. He's known for his sparse, lean writing style. He was wounded while serving as an ambulance driver during World War I, and he served also as a journalist during World War II, and these experiences helped shape his writing. Let's talk about the specs and stats of For Whom the Bell Tolls briefly. The Spanish Civil War ended in 1939. This was first published in 1940, and it's assumed that you're familiar with the conflict, but not much is lost if you're lost when it comes to the background of the story. This was a finalist for the Pulitzer Prize and a runaway bestseller for Hemingway. It has been adapted for both the big and the little screen, and I haven't seen any of the adaptations. My copy has 471 pages. I did read some of the chapters, but I mostly listened to it on Audible, where it was read by Campbell Scott for 16 hours and 18 minutes. Okay, a brief word on the style. This is a war novel, first and foremost. It really explores the brutality faced by those involved. There is some romance in here, but Jane Eyre, this is not. I like Hemingway's style. Vivid imagery, but we're not reading Faulkner here, who uses 5 adjectives when one will do. Hemingway, he could have wrote War and Peace in 300 pages. It would be just as good, but different. I mean, Tolstoy, he's like a 5-grain whiskey, double finished in Madeira and rum cask, complex and subtle. Hemingway, he's like a cask strength, straight rye whiskey, pure and simple and in your face. Okay, let's go through the plot briefly. Robert Jordan, he's an American demolitions or explosives expert, or as they call him in the book, a dynamiter. He heads to the hills under the direction of a Russian general in search of local rebels to help him blow a key bridge before an upcoming offensive. He embeds himself with Pablo's band, which is really led by Pablo's wife, Pilar. Besides the upcoming operation, I think the real story of the novel is the dynamics between the members of the band itself and the individual members and Robert Jordan. Pablo, he doesn't even want to do the operation because he's afraid it will make the fascists aware of their location and they will be hunted. There are varying degrees of competency and a willingness to work and sacrifice within the group. Robert Jordan, he meets and he falls in love with young Maria. She's one of the rebels who had recently been abducted and raped and then rescued by Pablo's band when they attacked a train. Robert Jordan, because of the operations he had done earlier, he had become disaffected and disillusioned with life, and his newfound love that awoke his lust for life. So, do they actually blow the bridge? Does it make a difference? Who lives? Who dies? Does Robert Jordan and Maria ride off into the sunset? Well, I know how you can find out. And that's all. We're going to go through the plot, onto my thoughts. And guess what? I really like Hemingway. Last year I read 50 of the greatest books of all time, all these classic books. Hemingway was one of my favorite new authors that I discovered, and For Whom the Bell Tolls did not disappoint. Some people, they don't like his writing style, and I get it. I like whiskey. Mrs. Captain likes wine. Different strokes for different folks. Specifically, for this novel, one of the complaints that people have is the sentence structure, the wording between the characters, especially when they are talking. And honestly, I think that's intentional. I lived in Argentina for 2 years, spoke Spanish, and the way these sentences are structured, especially when they're talking, that reminds me of how these sentence structures are built in Spanish. And while I was reading this book, I felt like sometimes these sentences were just translated literally. Typically, when you translate from between languages, you don't do a literal translation. You do more kind of what is the meaning behind the sentences because sentence structures are different. And it was very obvious and noticeable to me. I think if you've never spoken Spanish, I do think that the sentence structure, especially as we're talking to each other, it does come across awkward. And also, like we all know this, if you know anything at all about Spanish, it has both formal and informal speech. So to me, the these and the thines, they're kind of weird, but it does make sense to me in a Spanish environment. Hemingway's prose is like a pencil sketch of the master. Think of your favorite painter. Complex, lifelike paintings, brimming with detail. But there is beauty and power in a minimalist sketch that with a few strokes fires the imagination. Pick up a Hemingway, start with The Sun Also Rises, and then go from there. You're welcome. Okay, if you enjoyed the video, like it, subscribe to see more of my content. I do both whiskey and book reviews. But for now, I hope you're reading something good. Turn the pages, my friends.